All right, so now we're on to chapter 2, which is how to design a Windows Form application. And it's not so much how to design it, but basically at least the initial steps in creating a Windows Form. And this is not going to be a perfect demonstration, and I may even break it up into bits, but I'm trying to give you sort of the experience you'd have if I was actually sitting in front of you trying to do this. All right. So, so the first, what this general theme of this thing is the first thing the pattern does, and I'm talking, by the way, about exercise 2.1, which is on page 52 of the book. But the first step is basically just kind of screws around with some of the default configuration stuff. And then after that, we really get into create a form, we add controls, we test it, and then we experiment. And then what else? Yeah, and then just basically do some other kind of high level stuff. So I'm not entirely sure I call this programming, but it's pretty, we're basically just setting the groundwork. So if I look at number 1, it says start the Visual Studio, and if I want to change import or export settings, basically change my settings. I don't think we're going to be doing that. So I'm just going to go. I wonder, by the way, continue without code. Does that do anything? Oh, see, that's interesting. Continue without code gets me to this point, which might have been the way to do some of the things in the previous exercise when I kept saying, I'm sure you don't remember what it was, file new and whatever, and I didn't have file new because I was back to the previous page. But anyway, okay. So that's cool, but I'm going to, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why are you telling me my notifications? Okay, that's enough. No distractions. We're going to keep going. If I was a student, I wouldn't even be here. What I would do is I would get rid of that, and I would have my whole studio fire up, and there it is. And so that's what I'm going to do with that. Oh, you know what, though? I kind of have to. I can't have to. Okay, you know what? Forget it. We'll do what they're saying. So if you want to basically do what number 1 is, you open up your Visual Studio and you just go continue without code. So anyway, continue without code is talking about basically screwing around with your tools, import and export settings, and they do some sort of descriptions there. I'm not going to mess with that, to be honest. So I'm just going to move over. In the tools options, which almost all these IDEs have, you get some really cool things to sort of play with. For example, if you want to play with the color theme, you can do that. I keep it dark for the eyes pretty well. It says to expand the projects and solutions group. So right there, projects and solutions group. Notice our old friend here, expand and collapse. So we're going to expand. It then says go to the locations category. We're going to go to locations. Now, at this point, it's going to a spot I really don't want it to go. So I'm going to go to the project location. It isn't going to be here, but I'm going to actually move it to my colleges. Do I want it in here? Sure. Sure, I'm going to put it there. You put it wherever you want, and just understand this is where it's going to go looking for your code at first. You'll have the ability to change it, but that's where it's going to go at first. I'm going to keep it. It says use project template locations, use item. I'm going to keep all that in the same spot because that's seriously going into the guts of Visual Studio to dig this stuff up. So at this point, as a student, you're just going to want to change this project location to some area that you want. They have C:/C#. I'm not sure you're going to do that. Okay, if you want number 3, if you want to stop the start window from being displayed every time you start Visual Studio, click on the startup category within the environment group. So I'm going to go to the environment group, and that's over here. Here's my environment group, and the start window. Aha! I wonder if that is why. Well, hang on. Then select another option. I like my startup window, so I'm going to keep it there, to be honest. But that's why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. It's going to the start window first. Yay! If I'm interested, take a few minutes to look at some other options. I am sure not interested in this. I'm going to go. Okay, thank you very much for that. and start a new project as shown in figure 2.2. Now, this one for sure, you don't want to just go click new project, because what you're going to see is a lot of different project options. All right. So it does actually give us a hint. It says go to figure 2.2. Figure 2.2, I believe, is on page 37. Let's just see. Is that correct? Page 37, figure 2.2. Yes, it is figure 2.2. So Visual Studio can create a lot of things. What we want to do is we want to create a Windows form app. And if you go to figure 2.2, you'll see that's the second, that's basically number 2. Windows form app. Now, what you can do, if you want to you can scroll through this, but it's not alphabetical order, and you got to wonder the wisdom behind that, but it's not alphabetical order. Obviously, you can make a couple of changes, try and make your life easier. You can do that, for example. You can do that, for example. That's dropping some of your options. Still not alphabetical order, and still got lots of stuff to scroll through. I don't know if this would do anything. Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe web. What does web do? No, it's not even web. It's not web. No, don't be creative. All right. So anyway, what I found has worked for me for this book for sure is I go Windows Forms app, and and we want the .NET one. So Windows Forms app.net. I'm going to click on this thing. We're going to go next. And at this point, it's going to say, hey, give it a name. And the name, as is back on page 52, the name on number 5, it says it should be called invoice total. So we're going to go invoice total. Now notice the location is the default location. The solution name is now invoice total. I don't really have to, it says, place solution and project in the same directory. I don't think that's a particularly good deal. I think the solution should be the directory above the project, I would think. This is the framework. I'm going to go create. And it's calculating pi, doing a lot of stuff. It's given me a form by default already, which is awesome, right? So I didn't have to figure out all the code that it would take to create a form. Back in my C++ days, that was actually a reasonable amount of code to do. And if I was to go and I was to look at what is now showing up in my directory, there it is. There's invoice total. There's invoice total, and now the new solutions file. And inside of here, by the way, is all this stuff, which we're going to see popping up. Popping up in here. So there's all this stuff popping up in here. So this is kind of cool. You might want to, as a student, take a break if you're at this point and just look at all the stuff that it actually created for you. You might even, if you want to get a feel for this stuff, go ahead and look at what the actual program is. Remember, you can click on the object and then hit F7 or whatever, and there's the actual program. And look at all the stuff that it did for you. It generated all the code. If you remember from your Python days, of course, you create everything from scratch. This thing's actually creating everything. And so here's form CS, and I think it was Control Tab, I think, and then Control Tab. So it's form 1 CS. Here's the actual code behind that, right? So there's form 1 CS, F7, and so I'm going to get rid of the program, this guy here, but here's the code that basically made that. And notice that this guy comes in with a minimize, restore, and a close button. And I tell you what, let's see, does it build cleanly, even though we haven't done anything? And it's going to build cleanly, which is awesome. Is it going to run? Let's start it up and see what happens. I start it up, and of course, it opened up on another window. But there it is. There's my amazing form, which has the ability to minimize, has the ability to maximize, and it has the ability to get lost. Pretty neat. Why don't you just, I'll stop the video now, and then we'll look at some of these other sections in the next video. But for sure, play around with that and see all the cool stuff that just happened there for free.